Our next story is from Madagascar. It is an island nation in the Indian Ocean. It is famous for its wildlife and natural beauty. But today it is making headlines for a very different reason. A political storm is tearing through the nation. Weeks of protests have swept the streets. Demonstrators are demanding an end to poverty, corruption, and years of failed promises. The movement is being led by Gen Z, and it mirrors similar uprisings seen in Nepal last month. Their demand is clear. President Andry Rajoelina must resign. The pressure is growing by the day. Earlier today, the parliament voted to impeach President Rajoelina. And later, an elite military unit announced that it had taken over power. The president has fled, and the future of the island nation now hangs in the balance. Here's our report.
Madagascar is on edge. Its streets are full. Its parliament has moved to impeach the president. And the future of one of Africa's poorest nations now hangs in the balance. What began as frustration over failing power grids and empty taps has spiralled into a nationwide rebellion. The island nation is now in the midst of its worst political crisis in more than a decade. At the heart of this anger is a simple truth. Daily life has become unbearable. 3/4 of Malagasys live below the poverty line. Jobs are scarce. Food prices are rising. And water and electricity, basic services, have become luxuries. For many, it's not just about one government failing. It's about a system that has failed generation after generation. The protests began in September as marches over water and power shortages, but they have now turned into a political movement led by the country's youth. They call themselves Gen Z Madagascar. They say they want a government that listens, and they demand that President Andry Rajoelina resign. Their frustration is not new. Since gaining independence from France in 1960, Madagascar has endured repeated coups, contested elections, and political paralysis. But this time, the anger feels different. The streets are younger, the movement is louder, and the country's power structures are beginning to fracture. In a dramatic turn of events, an elite military unit in Madagascar also switched sides. It refused orders to fire on the demonstrators. It marched along with them, and it demanded the government step down. The pressure quickly moved from the streets to the halls of power. Earlier today, Madagascar's parliament voted to impeach the president. Minutes later, the elite Capsat military unit announced it had taken over power. This marks a turning point. With power slipping from his hands, President Rajoelina has fled the country. He said there were attempts on his life, and he insisted there was a plot to remove him by force.
There have been real plans since September 25th for a coup, an assassination attempt against me.
But protesters say this is not about one man. It's about reclaiming their country. It's about a new future. And it is about breaking free from foreign influence, especially its former colonizer France. Rajoelina, who also holds French citizenship, has faced criticism over his ties to Paris. Critics say France still wields significant influence over the country's politics. Some even accuse it of helping Rajoelina flee. Paris has not yet commented on this accusation. It has instead expressed concerns over the crisis.
I think it is very important that the constitutional order, institutional continuity be preserved in Madagascar, because the stability of the country and the interests of the population are at stake. It just must not be taken over by military factions or foreign interference.
But calls for stability have done little to change the situation. The Madagascar government's attempts to calm the anger have failed. The protesters are still on the streets, and the army is now stepping in. The nation's future is uncertain. What happens next will decide more than who leads Madagascar.